Namaste, hello, and welcome to the World Report. I'm Priyanka Deo. Our top story of the day: India has welcomed the U.S.'s move to designate the Resistance Front, or TRF, the group behind the Pahalgam terror attack, as a terrorist organization and described the effort as a, I quote, strong affirmation of India-U.S. counterterrorism operation. This as the United States has officially designated the Resistance Front, or TRF, a known offshoot of Pakistan-based group Lashkar-e-Taiba, as a foreign terrorist organization following the Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 people. NDTV's Arjun Mahendran breaks down what the TRF is. Arjun?
Now, the top of the world's terror lists, they also carry millions of dollars of bounties on their head. However, in Pakistan, they're not hiding. In fact, they're speaking up, they're leading, and they're even recruiting and, of course, walking free. We start with Hafiz Saeed right here on your screens, viewer. He's the founder of Lashkar-e-Taiba and the man behind the dastardly 26/11 Mumbai attacks. He's a UN and a US designated terrorist with a 10 million bounty. However, he still delivers public sermons in Lahore. He's guarded and not been arrested. Then the next up we have for you Masood Azhar. He is the mastermind of the Pulwama and the Pathankot attacks. He was declared a global terrorist by the UN back in 2019. And what has happened? Well, cut to today, he is officially untraceable. But somehow he's still preaching from terror hotspot Bahawalpur. It's the same place where Daniel Pearl, the US journalist, was abducted and later killed in 2001. Next, we have Zakir-ur-Rahman Lakhvi. He's the Lashkar-e-Taiba. In fact, he's Lashkar's military chief and another 26/11 plotter. In fact, he was briefly also jailed, but now he's back rebuilding Lashkar's network and also recruiting, and that too with sheer impunity. Next up, we have Sayyid Salahuddin for you. Who is this guy? He's the head of the Hizbul Mujahideen, has long been on America's terror list as well. And yet he leads anti-India rallies in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, waving Pakistani flags and calling for jihad against India. Next up, of course, how could we forget Dawood Ibrahim, the fugitive don behind the 1993 Mumbai train bombings, one of the most wanted men, not only in India, but on the planet. He, in fact, also has a 25 million bounty on his head. But intelligence agencies have tracked him to Karachi, where he remains untouched, of course, under the security and of the Pakistani administration, the ISI, and the army. Also in Pakistan, we have Iqbal Bhatkal. He's the key Indian Mujahideen bomber in the 2007-8 attacks. He also lives under ISI protection, far, far from justice. Now we move on to his brother, Riaz Bhatkal, on your screens right there. He's the co-founder and the financier, in fact, of the Indian Mujahideen. He's also believed to be in Karachi, remote running sleeper cells inside India. Now, viewers, these are some of the world's most wanted terrorists. However, in Pakistan, they are the most free citizens. Back to you.
Most wanted indeed. Thanks for that, Arjun. An Indian-Canadian gangster has been arrested in the U.S. for running a transnational drug operation along with a notorious Irish gang. That's according to local media. The gangster, identified as Opinder Singh Sian, smuggled methamphetamine and fentanyl precursors at an international level. Global News is reporting. Check it out. 2 international students from India have been sentenced to 3 years in prison and will possibly be deported after they serve the term after they killed an Indigenous man last year in a hit-and-run case in Surrey, Canada. The victim was of Cree heritage and was a 43-year-old father. Maha Siddiqui brings you more. Maha?
They were on a student visa since 2022, and this incident took place last year when, as you pointed out, they hit the pedestrian. And more than that, it was a hit-and-run case which has landed them with a 3-year prison term and deportation. This is because, as the court observed, that it would have been an accident. This is what the prosecution said, and a tragic one. But the fact that they tried to flee, the fact that the victim, was dragged for 1.3 kilometers, and one doesn't know whether he died immediately because of the hit or whether it was him being dragged by the car for over a kilometer is what caused the death. And this is what has landed them with this 3-year prison term because of their behavior after they hit the person. The decision that they took at that moment to flee rather than step out, help, and get the victim's support and help at that time has led to the death of the person, an indigenous person from the Cree community, identified as GJ on the request of his family. They didn't want his details revealed in the media. And this is what has landed them. That is Gagan Preet Singh and Jagdeep Singh, this 3-year prison term and deportation after that. Both of them are international students, both hail from India.
Councils for Save Nimisha organization requested the Supreme Court to permit members of the petitioner org to travel to Yemen to negotiate with victims' family. Now, the family of Talal Abdul Mahdi, this is the deceased Yemeni national, remains firm in their demand for retribution, even as attempts to convince them to pardon Kerala nurse Nimisha Priya are underway. The Yemeni national's brother, Abdel Fattah Mahdi, has opposed to any reconciliation whatsoever or pardon to the Kerala nurse in the case. The Air India crash investigator has called out the international media for, and I quote, selective and unverified reporting on the June 12th Air India crash and said that such actions are irresponsible. This came after the American publication Wall Street Journal claimed that a cockpit recording of dialogue between the two pilots of the Air India flight that crashed last month indicates the captain cut the flow of fuel to the plane's engines. Now, slamming the international media, the AAIB said that this was not the time to create public anxiety or angst towards the safety of Indian aviation industry, particularly on the basis of unfounded facts. AAIB further flagged the reporting as irresponsible, especially given that the investigation still remains ongoing. The United States has deported 1,563 Indian nationals from the country since January 20th of this year. That's according to the Ministry of External Affairs, who said that on Thursday, adding that most of the deportees have been sent on commercial flights. In April, the government told the parliament that a total of 682 Indians have been deported from the U.S. since January. The government said that a vast majority of those deported were those who attempted to enter the U.S. illegally. Here's what the Indian government has to say.
Since 20th of January this year till yesterday, we have some 1,563 Indian nationals have been deported from the United States so far. Most of these Indian nationals have come via commercial flights. So that is the update. And we, as and when we receive list of people who are to be deported, we confirm their nationality, and once only where their nationality is confirmed, as you know, then we do the documentation part, and thereafter they are sent back to India.
In a sharply worded response to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte's warning that countries like India and China could be hit very hard by secondary sanctions if they continued to do business with Russia, the Ministry of External Affairs has cautioned against double standards here. Do note that India and China are the top importers of Russian crude. Listen to India's response.
Regarding NATO chief's articulation, we have seen reports on the subject and are closely following the developments. Let me reiterate, and I've said this in the past as well, securing energy needs of our people is understandably an overriding priority for us. In this endeavor, we are guided by what is there on offer in the markets, as also by the prevailing global circumstances. We would particularly caution against any double standards on the matter.
Brazil's President Lula da Silva on Thursday night condemned U.S. President threats to raise import taxes on Brazil, mainly because he didn't like the way it was treating former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. Speaking on a recorded national statement, Lula criticized the U.S. for what he called, and I quote, unacceptable blackmail following failed trade talks and accusing Trump's government of making false claims about Brazil's trade practices and threatening national institutions. The president also condemned Brazilian politicians who support the U.S. stance, labeling them traitors to the nation, and defended Brazil's commitment to peace, multilateralism, and the interest of its people.
O Brasil sempre esteve aberto ao diálogo. Fizemos mais de 10 reuniões com o governo dos Estados Unidos. Encaminhamos em 16 de maio uma proposta de negociação. Esperávamos uma resposta. E o que veio foi uma chantagem inaceitável em forma de ameaças às instituições brasileiras e com informações falsas sobre o comércio entre o Brasil e os Estados Unidos.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are considering a deal that involves Washington buying battlefield-tested Ukrainian drones in exchange for Kyiv purchasing weapons from the U.S. This is according to Zelensky, who said this in an interview with the New York Post. Zelensky said his latest talks with Trump focused on a deal that would help each country bolster its aerial technology. Four people have died and more than 1,300 evacuated as torrential rain pounds South Korea, with authorities warning that the unseasonal deluge will continue. More than 400 millimeters of rain poured down just in half a day in Seosin, the worst affected city along the country's west coast. The weather agency described this as a once-in-a-century event. Now, authorities have urged people to stay away from riverbanks, steep slopes, and underground spaces, warning that the risk of landslides and flash floods remains very high. Protests against President Donald Trump's immigration crackdowns and cuts to social safety nets swept across the United States on Thursday, with over 1,600 events planned in public spaces, including courthouses and city streets. The National Day of Action, titled Good Trouble Lives On, was organized to honor the legacy of the late Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis. Lewis, who died in 2020, was the youngest member of the Big Six civil rights leaders and famously led the 1965 Bloody Sunday March in Alabama. Reflecting on his lifetime of activism, Lewis once urged Americans to get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and redeem the soul of America. The protests, led by a coalition of advocacy groups, including Public Citizen, focused on Trump's controversial policies, especially his expanded deportation tactics and cuts to Medicaid and other aid programs. Protesters called for nonviolent demonstrations and a renewed commitment, according to them, to democratic values.
First and foremost, it feels good to be together in community and shout about what's happening and to speak truth to power. We will not be silenced. We have to stand up and speak out about what's happening in this country to our immigrant communities and to the people who were brought here as slaves. Their ancestors were brought here as slaves, who are being mistreated in our prisons that are already existing, let alone the new prisons that are being built, the for-profit prisons. We need to tax the rich.
Minutes after announcing that he intends to sue the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch for reporting that the unreleased Justice Department files on Jeffrey Epstein include a body letter to the late sex offender from Donald Trump, the president said that he has asked the Attorney General Pam Bondi to release a different set of documents from the investigation onto Epstein. Despite the fact that the grand jury testimony is a different set of documents and could include information on Epstein's victims, Trump suggested that doing so would end the controversy over his administration going back on its word to release all of these files. The White House has announced that President Donald Trump has been diagnosed with a chronic but benign vein condition amid ongoing speculations over his bruised hand. The White House said the president sought a medical examination for swollen legs, which came up with the new finding. Let's move to a break. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the World Report. Let's move on straight to our next story. India meets Italy in a powerful new alliance set to redefine premium electric mobility. The Kinetic Green and luxury lifestyle brand Tonino Lamborghini have joined forces to launch a new line of high-end electric golf carts, merging cutting-edge Indian EV engineering with iconic Italian design. My colleague Osama spoke with founder and CEO of Kinetic Green, Dr. Firodia Motwani, and Vice President of Tonino Lamborghini, Ferruccio Lamborghini. Listen in.
Motion. This is what this partnership between Kinetic Green and Tonino Lamborghini is bringing to India, and especially in terms of electric vehicles and more importantly, in golf carts. We have with us Sulajja Firodia Motwani, the CEO and founder of Kinetic Green. I also have Ferruccio Lamborghini, the man who is taking forward this message to the Gen Next. A very warm welcome to NDTV. First of all, I want to understand this. Why golf carts, and what is this partnership all about?
As you know, Kinetic Green has been one of the leading electric vehicle makers in India. And having made a mark in electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers, we are now setting our sights on the global markets. We feel that this opportunity, together with the Lamborghini family of golf and lifestyle carts, is something which will really redefine not just Kinetic Green's future, but also the future of electric mobility.
As Sulajja mentioned, that there was a gap, there was a lack of the correct product from our perspective, so the correct golf cart up to date. Because now when it comes to electric mobility, we know it's a very vibrant market and there are a lot of changes and a lot of good ideas for the future. So we want to be part of this change.
Extreme athlete Felix Baumgartner, the first skydiver to fall faster than the speed of sound during a 24-mile leap through the stratosphere more than a decade ago, died in a crash Thursday along the eastern coast of Italy. He was 56 years old. Now, Italian firefighters who responded said a paraglider crashed into the side of a swimming pool in the city of Porto Sant'Elpidio. Canada forward Olivia Smith has become the most expensive signing in women's football history by completing a £1 million move to Arsenal from Liverpool. The 20-year-old, who made her international debut at just 15 years old, has signed a 4-year deal with the Champions League holders. Smith's move breaks the record set by Chelsea in January when they signed USA defender Naomi Girma for £900,000 from San Diego Wave. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert will end in May 2026. This is according to the CBS television network, who announced this in a surprise statement on Thursday. Paramount and CBS executives said in a statement that the cancellation is, and I quote, purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. It is not related in any way to the show's performance, the content, or other matters happening at Paramount. Now, this announcement comes just 2 weeks after Paramount settled a lawsuit with President Donald Trump, stemming from a CBS interview with his 2024 election rival Kamala Harris. The move brings a close to more than the 3-decade-old program, leaving the network without a late-night comedy talk show for the first time since 1993. The struggle is real and the hustle is real. Thank you for watching the World Report on NDTV World. Until next time, this is Priyanka Deo signing off. Namaste.